There's the pass to Leitner. Puts it up. Yes!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Camera Chronicles. I'm your host, Max Rego. We are joined today by Mr. Jake Piazza. We are live from our hotel room here in Brooklyn on 39th Street. Jake, how are we doing today?
Doing great as always, Max.
Yeah, we're coming to you on Saturday afternoon, a few hours in advance of Duke's ACC tournament final against 17 Virginia Tech. Last night, obviously, Duke advanced to the final with an 80-76 win against Miami in the ACC tournament semifinals. First time those teams had played since the January 8th, with a game that Duke lost in Cameron Indoor Stadium. So some revenge that Duke got last night in the Barclays Center. But a lot to get to this game. Really an interesting game, I think, from both perspectives of recapping last night and looking ahead to Virginia Tech. But Jake, let's start off with Miami. What's your main takeaway from the victory? Obviously a lot to get to, but for you, what stands out?
I think the main takeaway from that is hello AJ Griffin.
Yeah.
After that game, little bit of a rough go the past couple games, especially considering with how well he played in that Syracuse game over in, I guess, New York again, up in upstate. But I mean that stretch he had toward the end of the first half when he goes on 12 straight Duke points, all courtesy of him. 2 threes, one being an absolutely filthy step back on the wing there. I mean, when you have a guy like that can just heat up and give you 12 points when you need it, and really, to be honest, be the difference between Duke going into the half tied yesterday and Duke going to the half probably down by double digits. I mean, even Coach K had mentioned that in the press conference that it was not looking great for Duke, and they were really on the ropes there. So that's going to be my biggest takeaway is the Griffin performance.
Yeah, I mean, Griffin really saved them towards the end of the half. They, Paolo Banchero had a nice run there because Duke was down 18-7 early. Miami was really giving them trouble. Duke was switching everything early. I thought they did a pretty good job for the game, but early on Miami exploited them. Charlie Moore was automatic from three. He hit a three over Mark Williams that was an NBA level shot over a big guy like that. But Cameron McGusty was terrific. He had 24 points. He led all scorers. Sam Wardenberg, even though he's not your typical big man, he still had 7 assists. Coach K talked about postgame. They're pro level. They're pro style offense. They spread the court. They play 5 out, and they were really giving Duke trouble early. And so Griffin, once Miami rebuilt that lead after Paolo had basically tied it almost all on his own, Griffin really got Duke back into the game late in the first half. Again, 12 points in a row on his own, a couple step backs, one turnaround mid-range pull up from about 10 feet that I really didn't really know he had in his arsenal, quite frankly. But he was great. I mean, he really saved Duke at times in that first half, and he only had 6 points in the second half. I think Miami was getting out to shooters a little better in the second half, but he still was able to hit some big free throws down the stretch. Got a key rebound late there when it was 78-74 off a Charlie Moore missed three, and hit the 2 on the other end to make it 80-74. He was big time, and he's a microwave man. He gets going in a hurry. He can heat it up, and that personal run of his, that's something that he can do, and that's something that Duke really needs when their offense just gets a little stagnant and they need someone to just get a couple buckets and go on a run on their own. So, anything else?
I mean, and you do have AJ in the second half, not as present as he was in the first, but I mean, when you have that happen, you have Wendell Moore step up like he did. I mean, he scores 13 in the second half, and when you have kind of that depth on the team, like I'm looking here at the play-by-play, and with 6 minutes left, McGusty, surprise, hits a huge three-pointer to give Miami the lead, and then Wendell makes a jumper, he makes a layup, and then he finds Trevor on an assist 2 more possessions later. And you kind of just have these layers to this Duke team that you don't need. This team doesn't obviously be great to have a guy scoring 15 in the first and 15 in the second, but it also doesn't necessarily need that. You can have AJ score 12 personal run in the first half, and then you can have Wendell come in the second half and kind of come into that who's going to be the star right now role. And it's worked out all right for them so far in this conference tourney.
Yeah, I mean, I think Syracuse and Miami, going back to the Thursday quarterfinal game, both have been. I mean, Syracuse even a 9-point margin of victory. That does a little bit of a disservice to how close that game really was.
Absolutely.
Jeremy Roach, Wendell Moore really bailed Duke out at the end, I thought. But getting these experience, these reps in close games, winning close games is a skill. Figuring things out down the stretch is a skill. And Duke has not had that, I don't think, for a long stretch of the season. Really up until Virginia. Virginia, for me, when they won on the road at Virginia, that was really the turning point for this team, in my opinion. And seeing, the offensive rebound by Paolo Banchero on that missed free throw by Roach, when it was 75-71. Seeing that chase down block by Wendell that you just referenced. Seeing some, 17 of 22 from the line. A lot of those down the stretch. A couple missed free throws here and there, but 17 to 22, that's pretty solid.
They made the ones that.
Yeah, that's almost 80%. That's almost 80%. So, and Miami, Jim Rego was talking about it after. Miami only got to the line 12 times, made 6 of them, and Duke got to the line 22 times, made 17 of them. So that's a big differentiator, and that really was what ultimately maybe the difference in the game. And just looking at it, I mean, we gotta talk Paolo, because I think he had to answer some questions after UNC, because he was in my opinion, he was the only guy down the stretch of that Carolina game that had anything working for Duke offensively. But he still was only 11 of 26 in that game, put up some tough shots. I know he was just trying. It was Duke trying to get a quick shot and with under 5 minutes to go. But when you're the best player and you lose by 13 at home, you still got to answer the questions. And he did have a pretty good game against Syracuse: 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 steals even. But it didn't seem like he was as involved in the offense as he should have been. And I thought he really established himself against Miami. Getting involved on the elbow, low block. He was calling for the ball. He was demanding the ball for long stretches of that game last night. He was really good. 18 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, which is a solid number for him, a steal and a block, and no turnovers, which obviously is always a struggle for him in terms of just being stronger with the ball. He really flexed his muscles. I think he did a great job defensively. He called a lot of the defensive signals, really encouraging his teammates. We were right there courtside. We great media seating, and we could hear everything that's going on the court. So yeah, I thought he was great. I thought he really spurred Duke early when they needed someone to pick up the mantle and just go to work. So,
well, we've seen a couple times this year when it's almost like Banchero's like waiting to turn it on in the game. Not the case at all against Miami. In the first 5 minutes, he was attacking the rim, and Duke really needed. If he doesn't come out that aggressive, we could be having a very different conversation right now and talking about a conference championship between Miami and Virginia Tech instead of Duke and Virginia Tech. I mean, I think it was the aggressiveness and kind of the takes he had early that didn't necessarily stop all of Miami's momentum, but it definitely quelled it, considering how hot the Hurricanes came out from 3 and the fact that he was able to fire back with, I think it was 3 really big buckets early on for 7 points there. Yeah,
I mean, couple other things that I wanted to note from Paolo. It's a flawed stat, but it's still noteworthy. He had the best plus-minus on the team, plus 10. I asked him in post-game what kind of was working early on, how was he able to get into that rhythm, and he didn't say anything. He didn't have anything specifically from an X's and O's standpoint. He just said, I just wanted to be aggressive, take it to the hole, just provide, what the team needed basically, and that really showed. He was, there was a putback dunk that he had on a Mark Williams miss. I thought he was really, really impressive, and he's gonna have to be like that tonight against Virginia Tech, which we'll get to in a bit. But the matchup, I think, is it's on the table for him to have a similar type game. So yeah, I mean, anything else from Miami? I mean, on the Hurricane side, I really think. I think it was kind of ridiculous that they were a bubble team going in. They're clearly a tournament team. Isaiah Wong, they only lost by 4 with Isaiah Wong going 1 of 11 from the field. Charlie Moore, 3 of 6 from 3. Jordan Miller, who's really stepped up recently, 17 points, 13 rebounds, just 1 turnover and 3 steals. He was really impressive. I thought he gave Paolo some trouble inside. Paolo would overhelp, and Miller would kind of find a crease in the paint. So yeah, I think any thoughts on Miami and that team?
I mean, I'm looking at Joe Lunardi's projected bracket right now. Good luck to. I think Auburn is the highest seed, the 2 seed in the Greenville region in this mock. I would not want to be the team paired up with Miami. That's a difficult team to play against with how fast they can play.
Yeah.
And like you said, I thought they shot pretty well, and arguably their best offensive player in Isaiah Wong did not shoot well at all.
1 of 11. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's a legitimate team that is, and I know you said this earlier, Max, but that is your classic Sweet 16 low seed run team that I think that team is going to give people trouble in the tournament.
I was talking to David Thompson from the Fayetteville Observer, who we both know, after the game, and we were just talking about how big of fans we were of just how gritty that team is. I mean, they have no interior presence. Sam Waterberg is basically he's a stretch 5. They play 5 out. They just run dribble handoffs, slips. Just motion, just running in circles basically, with Charlie Moore and Wong and McGusty, who he went 11 of 19, and he just is a tough shot maker really, and they really can give a team trouble if they go against a 2 seed in the second round. If they're a 10 seed, I would say they should be higher, but I think they'll probably end up being a 10 seed. If a team doesn't have good perimeter defenders, Miami could give them a lot of trouble. So Jim Larinaga built a really good program, and I think they're set up really well with this team to surprise some people, in my opinion. So, do you want to talk Virginia Tech tonight? There's another game. Tech. Yeah. So 8:30 tonight back in the Barclays Center. Top seeded Duke, 7th seeded Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech really going into this season, I really thought Virginia Tech was going to be a contender for second place in the ACC behind Duke. That didn't end up being the case. They obviously finished 7th. They're 7th seed going into the ACC tournament. But then they just got hot. Darius Maddox hit a buzzer beater 3 to beat Clemson. They knock off Notre Dame on Thursday night in the quarterfinals, 87 to 80, and then they beat North Carolina 72 to 59. Really, after I finished, added some quotes to my gamer. I got out and actually watched that game. From the arena, and Virginia Tech took it to North Carolina. North Carolina had a lot of trouble with some of those guards. Storm Murphy, Maddox kept hitting a bunch of right wing threes, just getting open on that right side of the court. Kivi Aluma just steady inside, one of the best big men in the conference. So Jake, what about this team could give Duke trouble tonight? Because I think people were expecting Duke. I think after seeing these last couple games, people were expecting Duke to maybe coast, but I don't think that's the case.
Well, there's certainly not going to be any coasting by any means, but I think I want to highlight Darius Maddox too as a guy that can give Duke trouble. I mean, there's not a hotter player right now. He just scored a career high for him of 20 points last night, and the lights don't get much brighter than that. So I think kind of the way Mike Young is getting Darius Maddox open on the off-ball screens, and he's catching and shooting really well from the wing. It's not giving defenders very much time at all to catch up from him. So I think that is going to give Duke some trouble, and Darius Maddox, and then obviously with Aluma, I think Duke is suited pretty well on defense to guard Aluma. I really was impressed with the way Mark switched onto guards last night. I thought he played really well with his on-ball defense on some of the smaller, quicker guys. But I do think
he was able to play. He was also able to play 32 minutes, which is impressive.
Right. I mean, a year ago, are we even having a conversation of Mark playing 32 minutes in a guard-heavy lineup like that?
No.
Probably not. Right?
No chance.
So I do think Duke is suited pretty well to match up. But Aluma's he's gonna score, and Duke's got to be okay with that. But I think between him and Maddox, it's definitely going to be enough to make this a good one tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking now at the line, and actually surprising, Duke's only favored by 5.5 points. That's probably the right amount, I would say. But I mean, Virginia Tech, they play one of the slowest paces in the country. They're, I believe, 344th in adjusted tempo, according to our friends at KenPom. They're a darling of the metrics. They're 25th in KenPom, and they're 22-12, and they're 33rd in the net. Which basically, if you're 33rd in the net, and if you're 25th in KenPom, you're inside the bubble. And right now, they're the last team out. Right, they're just outside the bracket. But I think, by all intents and purposes, they might need to win this game to make the NCAA tournament. So they're just going to be playing, just going for it totally fearless, no reservations, and Duke's going to have to account for Aluma inside. Justin Mutz has really expanded his game a little bit. He has a nice little turnaround jumper. Storm Murphy, Maddox, who's gotten hot. I mean, he only averaged about 6 points a game in the regular season, and he's lighting it up in Brooklyn. But it's starting to come together a little later than a lot of people thought, later than a lot of ACC insiders and analysts thought. But this team can really give Duke some trouble if they can just get into their sets and slow the pace down and just prevent Duke from getting just some easy buckets, because that's what I thought Duke really did a good job of against Syracuse and Miami, just getting some easy ones, just getting some easy layups in transition, just to pick the pace up.
We can't forget about Sean Padula too, who's come on recently. Probably played better against Notre Dame than he did against North Carolina, but that's still another guy who finishes really well in the paint, especially for what is he standing at? Standing at 6'1", 190, and he certainly is not afraid to attack the rim.
Yeah.
And then another guy, though, too, that I think is going to need to step up for the Hokies here. Hunter Couture has not shot the ball very well in the ACC tournament. He has not hit double digits once from three-point land. He is 4 of 12 here. Very uncharacteristic for him, especially considering how well he shot 40% from three-point this year. So they're certainly going to need him to get back to that 40% clip if they're going to want to have a chance against this Duke team. Yeah,
no, he's a great shooter. One thing I hear from their win against Notre Dame, which honestly, 87-80, that was really the game that kind of opened my eyes to how much of a run this Virginia Tech team was on. Just very balanced scoring. Aluma with 20, Mutz with 11, Couture with 9, Storm Murphy with 16, Padula with 13 off the bench. Maddox only had 4, but again, they only had 6 turnovers in that game. They outscored Notre Dame in both halves. They shot 57% from the field, almost 37% from 3, 75 from the line, while still getting out rebounded. So they beat Notre Dame, who second best team in the conference, but over a 20 game sample size, by 7. So. That's a really good team, and I think 5.5 is probably the right line to handicap it at for Duke. But I think Duke is going to have to establish Banchero and Williams inside. They have the size advantage, but Banchero and Williams are going to have to establish themselves inside, and then on the other end, they're going to have to defend their butts off against Aluma and Mutz, who can step outside. And I would not be surprised if there's a little bit of Paolo Banchero at the 5. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked. Mark, I think Williams will play high 20s, but I think if Duke wants to run a little bit and really pick up the pace and make Virginia Tech play outside its comfort zone, then you got to try and put Banchero at the 5.
I'm gonna have to disagree on that one, and you know what? Maybe tomorrow I'm looking like an idiot for this, but I think this has a signature Mark Williams game written all over it. I mean, Virginia Tech's tallest guy on the floor most of the time is Keve Aluma, and he's 6'9". I mean, look at Baycott puts up 19 yesterday. I think Mark can have a night, honestly, better than that against a team like this. He's been playing well in this tournament. I think it's time to just feed him the ball in the post, and I mean make Aluma stop him, and I think the great thing with that is getting Aluma into some foul trouble is going to spell big trouble for this Hokie team. So I think feed Mark until it doesn't work. Let him eat in the first half. Let him get after it for a little bit, and then if it's standing at halftime and Aluma is holding the zone, Then I'll concede, Max. I'll concede. Time to put Banchero at the 5 for a bit.
I just think in the meeting between these two teams back in December, it was Duke's first ACC game. Williams only played 12 minutes. Didn't play much at all, from what I remember. Didn't play at all in the second half. Didn't score. Banchero played at the 5. That was one of the better games of AJ Griffin's career up until that point. He had 13 points. Banchero had 23 and 7. Virginia Tech was, again, they're big. They do a great job with their dribble handoffs. Just running guys along the perimeter, making it really tough to guard, making it really tough for perimeter defenders, and it makes it tough if you switch everything. So having Banchero at the 5, who's just a little more agile, a little more light on his feet than Williams, although Williams has improved with his lateral movement, as Coach K said yesterday. But I think having Banchero at the 5 just for some stretches where if Duke wants to run a little bit, I think could really benefit them. So you got a score prediction at all?
Score prediction? I mean, this turn, I think we've learned anything this turn is we're gonna get some anarchy. So I think anarchy leads to more points. I think we're gonna go Blue Devils 84, Virginia Tech 78. Final decision.
I'm gonna go Duke 79, Virginia Tech 70.
Duke goes under 80 for the first time in the tournament?
Yeah, I think so. Virginia Tech slows it up a little bit.
Okay.
Duke won 76-65 the first time these two teams played. I think Virginia Tech slows it up just enough to get Duke under 80, but I think Duke with Banchero, and I think another game from Griffin where he can take a couple guys off the dribble if Virginia Tech's going to switch. I think that gets Duke to a 79-70 victory. They cover the spread, and they probably head in the NCAA tournament locked into a 2 seed. So we're about to wrap it, but we wanted to do one quick thing, right, about just the ACC tournament, right? We've been here for a couple days here in Brooklyn, so there's always been some talk about whether the practicality of having it up here in Brooklyn. But Jake, what's been our experience up here?
Look, as a venue, Barclays Center is fantastic.
It's a great arena.
It's been loud too. I know exactly that upper, what is it, like third level there. It hasn't been filled, but the floor and then that second higher level behind that floor seating, it's been pretty packed, especially for that game yesterday. The crowd has been in it. I mean, obviously you can't really comp it to Cameron with the energy that brings,
yeah.
But the crowd from both teams has definitely been in it. It's certainly been I would probably skew like 3/4 Duke, right? Both.
Well, yeah,
both. What was it like in the Virginia Tech North Carolina game?
It was. I mean, mostly Carolina, but there were most of the Virginia Tech fans were behind their bench, but there were some scattered throughout the stadium. They were loud in the concourse after the game. I'm sure there was some alcohol involved as well, but they were loud. They were pumped up. I was talking to some Virginia Tech fans during the game who were sitting behind me. And they just seemed like they were kind of happy to be there, and maybe for a team like that, a 7 seed, maybe it's more of an appeal to go to Brooklyn than it is to go to other places. I mean, I like having been to Greensboro, not for the ACC tournament, having been to Greensboro a couple times. It's a nice city. I think it should be the base site for the ACC tournament, just for tradition's sake. But I think you can move it around to Charlotte, DC. If you want to try Atlanta's not a terrible place to have it, and then up here in Brooklyn, because I mean, there's some you gotta at least throw a bone to some of these northeastern ACC teams, Syracuse, Boston College. And then with DC, it's easier for Virginia Tech and Virginia. For Atlanta, maybe easier for Georgia Tech and Clemson per se.
The Florida schools too.
The Florida schools. You could. I mean, I was talking to Shane Smith, obviously former managing editor, former host of this very podcast yesterday, and he was talking about how Tampa might be a good one, Orlando, maybe for the Florida schools.
They did Tampa though.
It didn't do well. So
it was like 2009.
I would say if you want to do 10 years, I would say you'd probably do the majority of them in Greensboro. Probably do 6 Greensboro, 1 DC, 1 Charlotte, and a couple in Brooklyn. Because I think Brooklyn is a cool, like the atmosphere is great. It's obviously an NBA arena. It's in a cool part of town, and the fans have been into it. The Duke band has been into it. They've been really loud the last couple days.
Has been into it, yeah.
Shout out to those guys.
To the Duke band.
And Duke fans obviously they travel well. Not only coming in from Durham, but a bunch of alums in town. can't tell you the amount of people I know who just text like, yeah, I'm at the game, just coming in from Manhattan if they live there for work and stuff. But I think it's a cool atmosphere. I don't think it doesn't have the tradition and the history that a Greensboro or even a Charlotte will have. But I think you can't lock yourself into a box and have one place.
You can't have 4 schools within like it can't be in North Carolina every year. And
exactly.
North Carolina, NC State, Wake, and Duke, like it's a hop, skip, and a jump over from all their areas, and Syracuse and BC are having to fly a pretty good distance. So I do think it should rotate, and like I know Brooklyn isn't like a favorite, but I think the atmosphere has been fun. Like I'd have no problem if it's at Brooklyn. If we're like lumping it in like the next like 10 years of things, I'd have no problem if it's in Brooklyn. A handful of times. But yeah, I do agree. Like Greensboro is home for the tournament. It should never go away from that. The majority should be there, but as a conference, if you are going to expand and let these teams in the far northern and southern ends in, you gotta move it around a little bit.
I think it's also easier for corporate sponsors to be in Brooklyn. It's easier for national media to come in. We've seen some people from CBS come in. We've seen Andrew Beaton from the Wall Street Journal,
former Chronicle,
Duke Chronicle alum. He was sitting in front of us at the game yesterday. So it's just easier on a couple of those fronts to get it a little more exposure, and get it during this week when a lot of media and sponsors are congregating on New York because of the Big East tournament over in Manhattan at MSG. It just kind of adds. It just is part of a huge week of basketball in New York. So I think I don't think it should be in Brooklyn every year, but it should. Moving it around is nice, and catering to different schools and groups and corporate sponsors and media. It could help that being in Greensboro probably helps with more of the North Carolina media. Probably would help us from a travel perspective. But for just for fans from other schools up north, for alums of any schools who live, because there's a lot of Notre Dame alums, I'm sure, UVA alums, Duke alums, UNC alums up in this area of the country. It's just easier. So you got to cater to different parties. So is that all you got?
And for Duke too, I don't think Duke has to be too worried about the fans part of it.
Duke travels.
Always traveled.
They travel
the
ridiculously.
This year,
they're incredible.
From that standpoint, it'll probably skew Duke pretty much anywhere you put it, barring Greensboro, because I'm sure the North Carolina faithful will swarm the stadium proudly for all those games. But that's all I got. Yeah, no, that's all. I'm beat. I'm ready for this championship game tonight. So we will be live from Barclays Center, 8:30 p.m. tip-off. Make sure to tune in to all of our content from DukeChronicle.com and our Twitter at Duke Basketball. We'll be there for you every step of the way. So as Duke wraps up the ACC season, and we'll see what happens tonight, and we'll see what happens tomorrow with Selection Sunday. So Jake, thanks for joining. Thank you, Max.
All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. Happy Saturday.